Today's podcast is brought to you by StrongHeartAcademy.com, where no heart is no victory. We are also brought to you by BJJ to go. If you want to build your game and learn jiu-jitsu, go to bjj2go.com. Okay, so today I want to talk about, geopolitics again. So I did one kind of on Ukraine before they invaded and gave some of my thoughts. I've been watching this dude lately on YouTube. I'm probably going to buy his books. His name is Peter Zahn. I think it's Zeihan, I believe. And he used to do policy in Washington, and he did some think tanks, and now he has his own. And he did a presentation at Fort Benning for the military. And it was like, I think, pretty recent, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And there's a bunch of guys that did these presentations at Bennings at Fort about future wars, future conflicts, threat assessments. And he wrote a book that basically predicted the Ukraine invasion. And so that's pretty disturbing how accurate he was. And a lot of the stuff he does is statistics off of birth rates and his belief that the United States is going to deglobalization. And he believes that we started globalization, and our navies were currently protect all the shipping lanes, all the oil. You know, we have aircraft carriers everywhere, but what we're doing is we protect the shipping lanes. So people can't do blockades, and free shipping is just gone freely that way. It helps our economy. I think he believes that we're going to be decoupling with China, which I believe too. I think the cost benefit is losing now. I think he said their labor costs are up 16 times now. They're 16 times the labor costs that they had before. And with their child birth rates, because of the one-child policy, when you look at their, boomers, zoomers, Gen X, and you're going through the list of everybody, they have a very small population growth. So within, I think he said 40 years, their population will be in half. And he believes within 10 years, they're going to have serious problems with food shortages because their geography. So a lot of things with these countries, including the United States, geography plays a huge portion of it. So they're kind of landlocked. Their ports are blocked by Taiwan, which is why they want to take it over. And they have a chain of islands in front of China. If you look at a map, it's not that complex. And they can always be blockaded. So, they're sending shipments back and forth to the United States. We're their biggest trading partner. Then they're getting oil from the Middle East that comes around and up in. And if we did a war, he claims that we would just send two destroyers in the shipping lanes, and we wouldn't allow oil go there. And he said within 10 months or a year, 100 million people would starve to death in there because they wouldn't have the energy needs, and they import a lot of their food is imported too because they don't have, the United States has a breadbasket in the middle of the country. Even though we're wearing our soil down, we still have probably another 30 years before we have some issues, which is, look, we got to do something, but we have 30 years of food. That's huge. He believes that more things will be in-house, we'll be selling in-house, and then he thinks that things are going to start moving to Mexico because Mexico has a great birth rate still, and they have the youth. So if a country doesn't have youth, you don't have any industries, you don't have a labor force, and those two things are huge, and even in the United States, the boomers are going to start retiring. They're already retiring now, and they're the largest population in the United States is the boomers. So after World War II, there was so much prosperity, people were having babies, and it was cheaper, But as we've moved to cities, people are having less kids. So I think it's on average like 1.7 kids. It's not enough. So if you get married, there's two of you, you only produce one, they're not replacing you. So part of the thing we have is immigration. We can pull new people in, young people in, and that helps us innovate and keep moving forward. And we still had a fairly large Zoomer population. It's just not as big as the Boomer population. And but China is not. They're not having kids now. They haven't been having kids for a long time. And I guess his claim on Ukraine was the same thing. Russia has not enough large enough military to replace losses because they don't have enough youth. And they're landlocked, which is another problem, which I talked about in another video. They need seaports, and that's what Syria's about. That's what part of Ukraine's about. But also part of Ukraine is about trying to get more population, taking those people, and they have a breadbasket. So he claims, the point of this video is that he claims that things are going to go to Mexico. And the problem that with Mexico is, which I think is the obvious one, is everything is run by cartels now. And he was talking about the new cartels are running everything now, not just drugs, but businesses. So if you want to do business down there, you're doing business with cartels. Well, that's a problem if you want to invest in companies where they're not playing by any kind of international rules. So what he thinks is there's going to be a conflict, a military conflict with Mexico, the cartels, but they run Mexico. And so he says that Mexico is perfectly situated to become a superpower in the next whatever years. And because they're going to get so much from us. It's kind of funny because, Trump went on the wall, build the wall, but then he also did a new NAFTA agreement to help our companies go down there and get cheap labor. Now, the cheap labor isn't coming here. They're not crossing the border, but instead we're sending jobs to Mexico. And this is going to be the new thing, because they have a more younger population that can work, and you can get cheaper labor, and that's what China is about too. But now the shipping will be easier because there's all these railroads in Mexico, and Mexico has two coasts just like us, so they can go in the Gulf of Mexico, and you can get up to if you produce something on Mexico, okay, and you're in the Gulf, you can ship it to Louisiana. From Louisiana, you can go up all the way up to Mississippi, and the country's cut in half by Mississippi. So we have so much shipping lanes there. It's going to help us so much. My concern with all this is a war with the cartels. I mean, you can look at the numbers down there, and they said like 100,000 people were missing last year. And, there's car bombings, beheadings. They're lighting people on fire. They're putting people in drums, gasoline lighting on fire. They're hanging people from bridges. I mean, this is like shit that we were talking about in Iraq. And I always said that forever. Like, there's more people dying in Mexico than in Iraq. And that was about oil. So we were like, well, we got to go over there. But now we're talking about Mexico. And I live in Phoenix, so we're on the border of Mexico. So things are going to pop off on our side of the border, and that worries me because, I live here. I don't want to be trying to go to the supermarket and a gunfight goes off. I don't think we have the infrastructure, law enforcement to handle this. I have an FBI building where I live off of Deer Valley. There's a huge brand new FBI building right off of Deer Valley, right across from the airport. I'm assuming so they can take people in and out of that airport. And then I think there's one downtown, and then I think there's one in Tucson. Tucson's close to Mexico. But now what are they going to do? They're going to beef this up more. And then, it's going to turn into kind of like the Patriot Act, where hey, it's terror. What they're probably going to do, in my opinion, they're going to start labeling cartels as terrorist organizations. And pretty much they are. But what that means is they're going to get more powers to do things. And, they're already right now, the DPS has cameras on their cars. When you're driving down the freeway, they're just watching all your plates. And what does that mean? You're like, oh, that's not a big deal. But what they do is they geolocate where you were at all times. If they want to look back on the records and go, oh, you were on the freeway at this point, at this time of day. Where were you going? And, like, if you're not doing anything wrong, it doesn't matter and all those kind of things. But, man, like, you're just losing more and more freedoms. And I'm not like a conspiracy theory. I think this is all done with good intentions, but a lot of shit has been done in good intentions that is not good for people. I don't have a solution here. I'm just saying I'm worried about this is going to happen. And so if the law enforcement can't deal with this, that means the military is going to deal with this. Then we're going to have some very strange scenarios where the U.S. military is on U.S. soil doing operations in U.S. soil. And that gets a little sideways. And they already have the National Guard down by the border. They've done it multiple times, okay? I'm talking about like in Tucson, in Phoenix. Are we going to have checkpoints? Where are you going? What are you doing? And I get it, but like as Americans, we freely travel for the most part. And I'm worried that's going to be taken away. And so I'm hoping they just send a bunch of CIA dudes into Mexico and start making some deals with the cartels. Like, hey, play ball or this. But the war on drugs has clearly not worked. It's only done the opposite. These guys are only more powerful. They have so much money. They have equipment the same as the military. And so far, the U.S. has not fought well with small guerrilla operations, which is what this would be. They don't have tanks, but they have crazy communications. They have jets. They have planes. They have helicopters. They have smuggling operations. They can dig. They can do small arms. They can do explosives. They can start killing politicians in the United States, and they can start bribing. They have so much money to bribe, and are our institutions strong enough for that right now? It's like, I don't know, man. And Arizona is like wacky. Our politicians are wacky. Some of these Republicans are wacky. There's so many of them, and so I'm just like, are these guys strong enough to stand up, or are they going to just take the money? Because they already take money from businesses. Arizona Corporate Commission is like total frauds. We pay really high electric bills here. We have solar everywhere. Like, what? Why does it cost so much? I don't know. That's a whole nother discussion. But these are just worries of mine that I'm like, how's this going to play out? Do I want to stay here? If that pops off, I don't know if I'm staying in Phoenix. And I'm born and raised here. I love Phoenix. I love Arizona. But I don't want it to turn into Mexico. And I don't want it to turn into a war zone like Mexico. And I don't trust policymakers to understand this. And personal businesses, these large businesses that go down there, like Ford, building plants. Now, Ford is bringing a lot more back here, but there's still plenty of companies that are building down in Mexico, and I think it's just going to increase. There's some good things in Phoenix. A lot of microprocessing is getting done here. A lot of EVs are being produced here. So hopefully those things increase, and good jobs stay here. But I don't want kidnappings, and we already have it here a little bit. We have kidnappings, and drug trafficking and sex trafficking. These things worry me. I don't want to be in a war zone, and America doesn't understand how blessed we have been that no wars are really fought here. We fight wars and we bomb everybody, we fight everybody, but that keeps a lot out at bay. Even the terrorism, like, it hasn't been bombings for a while. There hasn't been any terrorist acts for a while. And I don't know if that means that the FBI is doing a lot better job, and at what cost, because they're following everybody's emails and They're flagged. Everything's flagged now. But I don't know if they have enough agents to deal with this. And if it really ramps up, what what's going to happen? One thing that might be a good bright thing is that if more people are making money in Mexico, less likely to join cartels. You're going to have more opportunities, But some of these guys, they take them when they're kids, and they are indoctrinated into this, and that's very much like Islam extremists. You're taking children and teaching them to be extremists and hate, infidels. It's over there it's money. It's more about money in Mexico. So I don't know. I don't have any answers for this one, but I'm just thinking a little ahead and what is that going to look like for us, And Peter Zahn, he is he sees it as a positive, but the dangers are the cartel. And we already had it this year with avocados. The cartels, people don't know, the cartels own all the avocados in Mexico. So there's embargo, and that's why it's hard to get avocados now. And so, do we want to start making products down there and then suddenly they're held up? We think we have supply chain problems now. That's going to be a problem. There's no. And you're going to get things like strongholding people. They'll just be like, hey, you want this whatever product, you want this car shipment, it's going to cost you X amount more. And then that's going to cause inflation again, too. And what he was saying is more jobs are going to come back to the United States, which is also going to make inflation go up because they're going to have to start paying more. So there's some things to think about is, he's not worried about Russia. He says there's a death blow. Same thing with China. I'm not so sure with China as much as he is, but I think it might be a little slower decline than him. But we'll see. I don't know anything. I'm not. I didn't go to Harvard. This guy's well educated, and but he's had some predictions that already came true. So, and when you listen to, I encourage you to listen to some of his videos. They're very interesting, and it's very logical, the things that he's saying. We'll see. We'll see how it goes down. He also says a lot of the technology is going to be sent more to Korea and Japan again versus China. And then, but that was going to cost more because they cost more than China. But we'll see, His worry was fertilizers. America can make a lot of our own. But some of the stuff we get is potash is from China. Some of it's from Russia too. So he worries about future food crises because we can't produce the yields without the fertilizers anymore because we've ruined our topsoil everywhere. So we'll see how that works out too. Supposedly the United States will still be okay, but this chunk of the world imports food. They can't produce enough food to feed themselves. So if we can't ramp up much more than we do already, and Ukraine produces tons of food and they're a mess. So where's that food going to come from? It's not going to magically come from nowhere. And there's only so many places that can breed or can grow grain, and grain is, staple of food. So it's stored energy, basically. If you think about grain, you could store grain for a long period of time, where meat and dairy and fruit spoils. So grain you can store for a long time, and it's high energy, high calorie, carbohydrates. And so where are you going to get that from? I don't know. I don't have the answer there either. So these are just things I've been thinking about lately. If you need more anxiety, this is for you. So anyway, peace. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, all that jazz. Like. I think I'm going to be hitting 100 episodes soon. So I'm a little bit behind on my episode numbers. None of them are numbered. I'm going to try to fix that one of these days. The problem is I'm a one-man show. I also run a business and have a family, so this is like fun for me. But if I guess I probably should create it more of like, treat it like a job more, I guess. But anyway, till next time, thanks and peace. It should come out on Monday. Bye.
Let me talk for just a second, help me feel that sense of rhythm. Find the meanings in our bearings and discover this position as a stage along the way. Another rung to the ladder, either stalling or you're climbing, and I'd rather be the latter. Instead of getting fatter, let the footsteps resume naturally.